All right, guys, welcome back to the MKAU podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. My guest with me today is an award-winning actor who has undertaken such roles as the voice of Taun We in Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones, uh, iconic role of Beth Heckey in Once Were Warriors, and Helen Hawkins in Siren. You can see her in the upcoming live-action Moana movie as Grandma Tala, and live and in person at the Supanova Comic Con and gaming conventions. First one in Sydney at the Sydney Showground Olympic Park on June 21st to the 22nd, and in Perth Convention and Exhibition Centre June 28th to 29th, both in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my esteemed honoured welcome today, Rena Owen. Rena, how are you?
Kia ora, and hi everybody listening to MKAU. I'm great. Thank you for having me. I want to pick up on something, James, that you said in your introduction, and it's often a thing that's online too. Voice of Taun We. No, it's my entire performance. So what a lot of people don't realize about Taun We is I was there on set doing all the scenes with Temueta as Jango Fett, with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so it's me walking, my talk, my energy. And that's what George Lucas did in all his Star Wars. He got really good actors, and we would do the whole performance, and then he'd go away and change the way we looked on computer. So, and I'm going to say this is, Taun We's initial diagrams and her figure was quite generic, but after my performance, they gave her a headband and they gave her an earring and they feminized her more because of my performance. So yeah, I just loved being that character. Loved it.
I was going to mention because although a lot of write-ups, as you've stated, does say the voice, I have seen that photo where you have a very interesting hat on set. Do you want to explain what that hat was?
Absolutely, and that's the genius of an Australian crew, and I have to say too, for our New Zealand and Aussie crews, there's a lot of ingenuity because we never got spoilt back in the day by big budget Hollywood films. We always had to come up with no budget and these clever ideas. And when I was doing the scenes with Ewan, as an actor does, he kept looking at my eyes.
Right.
And because that's what we do, we just look at their eyes when we're in our scenes. And George reminded him, he said, listen, Ewan, by the time we're finished with her on computer, she's going to be 6 foot, the height I was going to be. So he would have to cheat his eye line high above my head.
Right.
And in order to get it accurate, an Australian guy came up with this idea. He put a blue construction helmet on my head, and George had a cardboard cutout of Taun We so I could see what she was going to look like. And they cut her off at the neck, and they taped the neck and the head of Taun We on top of the blue construction helmet. So Ewan had a very specific eye line. And the funny thing is, as walking around with this helmet on my head, I kept forgetting it was on my head, and I'd often walk into the lighting. I tell you though, it was a lot of fun. I was like this, episode 2, I was this big kid in a big playground on Star Wars with George Lucas, and it was just such a good time. And then of course working with Ewan McGregor and Temueta Morrison as Jango Fett and Daniel Logan as Boba Fett, and of course the Aussie crew, because me and Temueta both got cast because of Once Were Warriors.
Yes.
George was a huge fan of that film, and he said to the casting director, get me those 2 leads. So there we are. We end up at the Fox lot in Sydney shooting Star Wars, and all the Aussie crew joked, oh, Jake and Beth end up in Star Wars.
Who would have picked it?
Good days. Good days. Yeah.
I do want to mention, before we get into your quite, illustrious film career, I do want to mention, your appearance coming up at Supanova. Conventions for you aren't exactly new. You've done a few of them now, but because you have started doing them now, how do you find going to conventions now and meeting the people that are fans of Star Wars and fans of Once Were Warriors? Do you find it like was it everything you expected or was it anything a little bit different? Like how do you like going to conventions now?
At this stage in my life, it's an absolute joy.
Mm,
And I'm so grateful to Supanova for having me as a guest because,
mm,
yes, I did do them back in the early days, which would have been like, we shot Attack of the Clones in 2000. It came out in 2002. I
mhm,
was there in Hollywood at the premiere. These convention people from Dallas said, "Hey, you're here. Can we bring you up for a convention?" and and I did them for a few years there. And the great thing I did is I learned all about Star Wars
mm.
and the whole history of Star Wars from the fans.
Right.
And I was very grateful to the fans because I grew up in New Zealand milking cows. I
Right.
did not grow up in a Star Wars world.
Mm,
And so I really didn't comprehend I didn't at the time I didn't comprehend the world I had entered. And in Hollywood, when I went to the premiere, and I took an American friend, um, and who was my boyfriend at the time.
mhm.
And at the end of the movie, I kind of said to him, I said, "Oh, this is a bit of a big deal, isn't it?" And he said, "Yeah," he said, "It's the biggest movie franchise in the world." And, but it wasn't until they took me to Dallas, Texas for my first convention. And I thought,
Mm,
oh my God, this is a religion.
yeah.
They were all lined up for our autographs. They were all dressed up. I entered this whole new world. And I enjoyed those initial conventions and meeting fans and learning about this whole Star Wars galaxy that means the world.
Mm,
It means the world to the fans. And it's a bit like what's coming next year with Moana live action. To
mm,
have the privilege as an actor to be in the world, an imaginary world that means so much to people. It
mm,
doesn't get any better than that as an actor. So I'm incredibly blessed. You may understand this as a Kiwi,
mhm.
in an Aussie, we still have that kind of tall poppy syndrome.
Right.
I call it, we have a bit of a colonial chip on our shoulders, and it's
Sure.
kind of like if you make it, it's like, who do you think you are, blah, blah, blah. I've kind of grown out of that, so I'm more confident in my own skin now. But
Okay.
I also found it unusual back then that people would have to pay for my autograph.
Right.
That's
Okay.
kind of wasn't something in my Kiwi or Aussie in our down under psyche,
Mm,
and of course now, you're almost talking, gosh, 25 years later. um, I'm more comfortable with it because I also understand like how much this means to people. And when I talked with the organization of Supanova and autographs, and I was saying, gosh, because of course the prices have gone up. But as one of the staff said to me, people say it's work hard all year to get this moment with with people like me, with people like Temuera or whoever they are fans of,
mm,
and that this is a service we are providing.
right.
And it's kind of like I get a buzz out of it that you can have upfront exchanges with the fans. And I've been blown away by, I've literally had people crying
Mm.
at my table when it comes to Once Were Warriors. And of course, I've had kids laughing about Taun We when I put on the Taun We voice.
Yeah.
And and it's you, and they're meeting you, the
Yes.
human being, and that is of value. So I'm more comfortable in my own skin, and I'm also just growing up in
Mhm.
terms of like, yeah, we live in a world where we all have to pay bills, and it's been an absolute joy to come back to do conventions. And I also look at it as a great way to get ready for what's going to be the biggest movie in the world next year,
Right.
Moana live action.
Mm.
You know, we're going to have to do Disney theme parks and engage with a lot of fans. So to be
Absolutely.
able to do these conventions this year, I'm so grateful to Supanova. And it also worked out timing because of the strikes, because of COVID. I lost my television job,
Mm.
Siren, which was shooting in Vancouver,
Mhm.
Canada. And then, due to the strikes, I lost work in America in 2023. And so we had more time here in New Zealand and then shot Moana last year. And it was Michelle, who's in the Bad Batch. And I saw her at an industry thing here in New Zealand at Christmas. And she said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing conventions? You're here, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I am, until the next job takes me away, because
Mhm.
my home is still here in New Zealand."
Yes.
And so that's how she introduced me to the booking agent, Mike from World Tree, who's just been fantastic. So it was all, I often think of these things as all aligned
Mm.
and, meant to be that you're on this side of the world, you have this opportunity. And I just loved working for Supanova. Daniel and his family and his staff and his volunteers. I mean, it's just, I look at Supanova just like Comic Con in San Diego, which I did
Yeah.
years ago with Billy T. Williams.
Okay.
And, it's just a well-oiled machine, and they're just exceptional and excellent and extraordinary at what they have created. So I'm happy to be able to come to Australia to do Supanova this weekend in Sydney and the following weekend in Perth, and I look forward to meeting the fans. I also enjoy meeting the fellow artists there and other actors, and I love comic book alleys. I love going down the artist alley and checking out all the work and getting up to date with, what everyone's into.
Mm.
Because I still do live on a farm with cows. So, coming to places like Supanova or conventions,
Mm.
like I did one in Nashville last month, and it's just great.
Yeah.
It's a real. I'm just so grateful to be a part of this world. And I had no idea back in 2000 the world I was entering. And of course, I've gone on to do more sci-fi,
Mm.
and through a fan at a New York convention many
Mm.
years ago, he said, because straight after I did episode 2 with George Lucas, I went back to LA and did a cameo role in artificial intelligence with Steven Spielberg,
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
AI. And he said, "Do you realize you're the only actress in the world to have worked with both legendary filmmakers?" I said, "No, I had no idea whatsoever." And at that point, there was only 5 actors in the world, 4 males and 1 actress.
Yeah.
Now it's 6 of us, but I'm still the only female to have worked as an actor with both George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And all I'm going to say is I'm incredibly blessed, and to be able to show up for the fans and share a bit of valuable time and space with them and sign their collection.
Mm.
Their collections, I get to see the most amazing stuff they bring to our table to sign, and they've spent years getting all these autographs on their posters and the helmets and signing action figures. It's just it's been a real joy and a lot of fun and a blessing. And I salute Daniel and his family and all of his staff and volunteers for just doing a fantastic job and having us there and taking the best care of us. So I'm hopefully going to see you,
Yes.
Mister.
Yeah.
Yes, either it's in Sydney, James, or will it be in Perth?
Um, the closest one to me would be, because I'm currently in Queensland, so the closest one to me would be Sydney. So if I can wrangle my way down there in the next what, 3 days, then yes, I'll be FedExing my way to you. But
Great.
if not, then I do know that Supanova do have a Brisbane convention in November. So if Sydney doesn't line up, then hopefully they get you back for November, and I can come and say thank you personally to you, because
Oh,
that would be
well,
mighty
listen,
great.
James, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me on your show. And you take good care. And as I'm saying to people in these crazy days we're living in, thank God we live on this side of the world. And stay safe, stay sane. Okay? Stay
Yes.
safe, stay sane, everybody. Take care of yourself, take care of your family and your friends. And thanks for having me on your show, Mike. Oh, sorry, Mike. I've just called you Mike James.
That's all right. I can be Mike. That's fine.
No, Mike's my booking agent. So sorry, James.
Oh, I can be
I,
Mike.
all
I'll be
the
Mike.
very best, love, and I look forward to meeting you when it happens.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Red. All the best.
You too, love. Thank you, James.